Computer. Lights. Good morning, everybody. I'm trying to get all my little widgets here figured out. There we go. I've got a lot of knobs. There's a lot of knobs and dials and widgets and things, and it sounds complicated, but I'm actually happy as a client. So there we go. Let's see here. We're going to do springs today. I love springs. But we have to first get to the right page. It's not that I'm disorganized. I'm just disorganized, right? All right. Let's get the master up and running. Let's load it with Clip Studio Paint. Now, normally on mornings like this, I would head over to my table over there and do a warm-up. But for today and for tomorrow, for the next couple of days, we're not doing warm-ups because over there is set up for watercolors. And on Watercolor Wednesday, both Pepper and I are going to go to Gyrie's and broadcast from Gyrie's and discuss what we're going to get for paints to replace or to fill in the spots that I've got going with my Miyazaki palette that I'm building, so that I can have a complete Miyazaki palette simulacrum. Anyway, we're going to make a simulacrum of the Miyazaki palette so I can at least have the concept started there. So that's the battle plan. But it's springs today, so we're going to switch to springs. And so let me go ahead and switch over to the monitor. This is our master file. You guys have probably gotten kind of used to seeing this by now, but this file here is my standard file for doing this kind of work. Should also be noted that I just got an email this morning that says that Silver Pentacle is up and running. I'll be darned. Well, first, let me show you that. Look at this. Look at that. Isn't that cool? There's my first cover right there for the Silver Pentacle. So look at that. Isn't that cool? I have worked way too long. It's been a long time. But the book will be available on Amazon today, I believe. The completed cover. Okay. You know. Hey. So there we go. It's already going out onto Amazon for today. If you want to find this book, it should be out later on today. You can just type in The Silver Pentacle by Nancy Hansen, and it will be there. I did the cover. I did all the interior illustrations for it. So it's ready to rock and roll, and I'm very proud of this particular cover. It's a very satisfying cover to me. I'm less irritated by it than many other drawings that I've done. I am most definitely an abandoned art artist. I have to just say, okay, look, I'm working one more hour on this, and that's it. And there's no more, and I'm done. Otherwise, I will fiddle with things. So, okay, we're going to do that. So here we go. Let's get to work. Let's get to work. As usual with mornings like this, first things first, let's clean our monitor. Because the monitor is definitely having issues. There we go. Get all that dust off of it. I use just a little blue terry cloth sort of thingy. This came with my actual monitor. But the monitor also needs to be unplugged and replugged because it has forgotten what it's forgotten the face of its father. There we go. Now we have mouse back. All right. So we have to come up with sort of an idea here. So what I will do is, first of all, let's go on ahead and set this up properly. We need to save as. It's going to be on the other monitor. And this one's going to be 2021. Wow. It's been a while since I've done a Springs, hasn't it? 5-10-244. This is number 244. And you'll see its name change up here on the top. Okay. And so this is the date that the comic was written and the number of the comic, which we're going to have to go down here and change. Because this guy is no longer correct. So we do first all of the stuff that we got to do. I don't even know what Ravy is. Anybody know what Ravy is? Ravy. It's like gravity. Gravy. Gravy. Wow, look at that. Oh, that's right. I was looking for, when I was working on, so I just, for the numbering of this particular comic, I always put this in just Arial at like 6 point, right? Put it right here, and we say 244. 6 point is not the right point. 7 point, 8 point, 9 point, 10 point, 11 point. There we go, 11 point. Right. There we go. So now we've got the thingy on there and everything like that. There we go. Now we're going to assign it a color. I don't think we've done orange in a while. So we're going to turn on the orange valet. Right, we're going to turn off the blue valet. Hello, Colleen. Welcome to the show. It's good to see you too. Without the convention circuits, I don't see you much at all. I mean, we don't hang out as much. I mean, usually it's you and I are hanging out in the media rooms together. So it's kind of a bummer. I miss you too. So anyway, it's like I'm missing all the world of the convention circuit. But it's good to see you here. All right. What we haven't done, and what we haven't done in a while, is we haven't done sort of a single panel, right? Well, I do know that NDK is on for sure. Well, okay, I guess I can't say that for sure, obviously, but pretty sure NDK is going to go off just fine. And I think like DPCC has moved back to, I want to say like Thanksgiving weekend. That's just going to be too weird. But I think that's either way. I think we'll still be able to start seeing each other this weekend or this fall as the Geek Tank and Nerd Alert News all start hanging out together again. Man, I miss all those days though. So, but it's good to have you on the show for a little bit here. So let's see here. We got to come up with a new layer. I'm going to put a new layer in, and I'm just going to put it at the bottom here, and this is going to be our blue line. So usually we'll do blue line for all things that we're trying to kind of like think out. And I still don't quite have a joke that I'm looking for today. So I know I had written one over here in all of my various notes. I've got a lot of notes. Another thing. Right, all these notes here and all these things. So I always look back through my notes to see if there's something where it's Senatorus Rex. Okay. Sometimes I'm like, I've got these notes, and then I'm like, I don't know what I was trying to think of there. Oh, I need a paint strainer to clean the resin out for my 3D printer. So you see what I mean? It's like, Sometimes I don't know what I was writing or what I was after, and these notes could be anything. Anything. Okay. Here I just have a whole bunch of numbers, letters, and then springs. Okay, well, that's not a joke, though. Okay, and super intake folder. Doesn't make sense. Okay, well, I am clearly not helping myself here. Because all of these things are like, they don't even make sense. I wish I'd write better notes. I think we all do. We all wish we'd write better notes. But I do everything this way, and I've done it for many moons, so it's like very difficult to figure out what the heck I was doing. A lot of these are Bellatrix Rising's notes. So, hey, Colleen, I got my first book is going to Amazon. Not my book, it's Nancy Hansen's book, but I did the cover and all the interior illustrations working with Airship 27. I'm very excited about this. It's very, very cool. So anyway, that's just a thing. I'm just very proud of that. Okay, so I want to kind of challenge myself to do a one panel. So sometimes I'll do these one panels and kind of come up with, well, thank you. I'm really excited about this. The one panels, usually I like to kind of do more of an introspective or sort of self-thinking sort of version of it without a joke necessarily. Sometimes it has a joke. One of the one panels that I've done before was, I don't know how life manages to give me lemonade and I ended up turning it into lemons. That was a funny joke, but sort of a thing. So sometimes I do these one panels and it's just a one-off joke. Okay, so what would be a good one-off joke? Absolutely, we should do that, because then we could put it out there in the ether, the news, the geeky ether. I don't know. Are you familiar with Airship 27 out of Fort Collins? A group run by a guy named Ron Fortier, who was a writer for, I want to say he was a Marvel writer for a while, but I'm not sure, because it was Green Hornet, and he worked for a while with Alex Ross on Terminator, but he was a writer for comics, so he was a comics writer, and so he would put these comics out in the 80s and the 90s, and now he's sort of semi-retired up at Fort Collins. And what he's been doing is he's been sort of putting together a clutch of writers and comic artists from around the Denver area. And sometimes he'll bring them into Airship 27, which is his pulp, he's doing pulp now. It's what he really likes doing. Sort of the 1930s-esque. Let me get back on the ring camera. 1930s-esque pulp novels. The Indiana Jones-esque, the Buck Rogers, that kind of stuff. Well, some of it, the style that he's got now is that he puts, illustrations in these books. So kind of like the old Nancy Drews did and the old Hardy Boys. You'd read about 20 pages and there'd be a picture, and then you'd read another 50 pages and there'd be a picture. And so he's been bringing us in to do these interior illustrations and things like that. And they've got some 15, 20 titles out there now. I mean, I'm certainly not the first title. But my title, the one that I'm working on, is... And by the way, if you're wondering, I am stalling because I can't think of a joke right off the bat. But I just finished this book, and I did the cover for it and the internal artwork for it. Nancy Hansen did the other pieces, but for me, I did this cover, and I did all the interior illustrations. So that's pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited about it. He did release a press release with this, which I'm loading now. It says, Airship 27 Production is thrilled to announce the release of writer Nancy Hansen's newest fantasy saga. In the far distant future, the Earth has long been abandoned, with the majority of mankind traveling to the stars to discover new worlds, whereas old hatreds continue to fester among those who remain until a global nuclear war lays waste to everything. Hundreds of years later, a demigod named Jordan Orion ascends on what remains to discover new human enclaves have sprung up, among which are men and women possessing strange supernatural abilities. One of these is the young firestarter, Alita Kalama, and together they battle the Angel of Death in the ruins of the once great metropolis. Later, they join forces with a lovely wind shaper to take on the merciless sea pirate known as Crazy Katie. So, sort of a thing. It says Colorado-based artist Guy Davis provides both the interior illustrations and the painted cover, while book design was handled by art director Rob Davis. No relation. See you later. It was good chatting with you. Now I can't stall anymore, though. So I'll see you at another time. It's good to see you, Colleen. Bye. Anyway, so I'm excited because I did the cover. The cover is really cool. I'm very excited about the cover. I'm mostly excited about the cover because I spent an inordinate amount of time on this cover. I mean, because really, let's see here. How long did it take me to do that cover? Because we've done 3 shows with it. So that's 6 hours. And then I did. You see, there's probably a joke here on this. Here we go. Here's a joke. Because it's like starting to form on me, right? What if we had 6 or 7 iterations of this, okay? And then I spent 2 Dungeons and Dragons games drawing on it. That's another 4 hours. So we're at 10 hours. So that's a 10-hour drawing. So there we go. Which, don't feel bad about it. I love to draw while playing D&D. It's like my thing. I really feel I can listen to the game. I can participate in the game. I know when to roll my dice. All it's good. And then I just draw and then roll dice and then draw and then roll dice. I'm a happy puppy. I make snarky comments. It's beautiful. So do not worry about the fact that I draw during my games. I have always drawn during my games. Just usually I'm drawing my character. But our D&D campaign is now months old, many months old. I've drawn my character a long time ago. And she's a paladin, and she's cool, and I like her. she's also snarky, as my paladins tend to be. Okay, so let's talk here about the joke. If we were to put a desk in, like so, or even raised desk, like so, we could put this desk in here, like so, and it needs to be a little bit higher, like so, like this here. Let's go ahead and kind of, boy, we're having issues. This is how you do not draw. Do not draw like this. I'm just kidding. You can draw like this. Here we go. There. So we will, what we're doing here is we're just putting in the desk. Let's put in a drawing desk. And we can have Mike perpetually being my smokrum when it comes to like things. I don't know. So Mike always represents me at my like 20s-ish or so. I'll put one arm down here like this. She's just zonked straight out on the desk. Like, there we go. And we'll just put one arm down here and her leg right here. There we go. Right. And we can put there, punchline. Boom. Putting the dead back in deadlines. Give her little stool she's sitting on. Her other leg right here. Right. We'll do that. Put the little stool thing there. And we'll give her, like I said, Mike always represents like my 20-year-old self, which sometimes I still think is me. And there are still times where I am sure that I'm still 20 years old and I just haven't quite gotten around to it yet. I just haven't figured it out yet. So there we go. Just like so. There. I'm just going to dangle her arm off the side there like any good artist would after they had decided to fall asleep at their desk. And I'm just going to dangle that arm off there. There we go. And then we will add stacks of paper right here. right here. There once was a time where I had a massive staging area for comics. As I was producing pages, I would be producing pages at such a rate, which, by the way, was still like 1 or 2 a week. I really wasn't like the world's awesomest at staging stuff, but I was producing things at such a phenomenal rate that I had stacks of these 11 by 17s hanging out on my desk. I had my dresser, which had been with me for many years, and it sits over here like so. And I'll just put this here. And I'll make sure that these have dimension, otherwise they will look weird. There we go. There we go, kind of like that. And I have a tendency to tilt down this way. You already noticed that? And like all my lines go this way. I don't know what my story is. Now I could use, if I wanted to, I could use the line tool, and this would be much. The line tool would be more straight, but then it doesn't look organic, and I like things to look organic, so I'm going to keep kind of doing it by hand so that it doesn't kind of get weird on me. So I got rid of this dresser about 4 or 5 years ago because it was falling apart. And I still feel kind of guilty about that. It's one of those things where that dresser had literally been with me through thick and thin, and it had served as a staging area, and it had served as so much of my life over the years that when I got rid of it, I was like just trying to prove that I was able to throw something out and I wasn't going to be an annoying pest, and I wasn't going to hold on to things needlessly. And I was able to, stuff like that. So, and all I really did was, throw something out that I actually regretted. So I'm still kind of sad about that particular thing. That dresser was, so the dresser shall live on as part of the world of Mike and her existence as an artist, which we didn't know she was an artist, but makes sense because she's fond of Shakespeare and does weird Shakespearean things all the time because she's a goof, and I was a goof in my 20s, and so, like I said, she represents me in my 20s. And I did this all the time, ultimately conked out at my desk. So we're going to. Her house has little round windows that overlook space, or not space, but overlook outside. So we're going to have to make sure that works there. And We want it to look like a spacey placey. So there we go. Kind of like the fact that in this space house, she's got wainscoting. There's something fun about the fact that she naturally has wainscoting. There we go. Do that, do that, do that. There we go. And this up here should be rounded. And we'll round this as well. All right. We're getting there. All right, we'll come back around here and we'll do this. She's got that kind of going for her. Extra papers. We should also have a few of them on the floor because that's definitely something that occurred to me all the time. And the cats would then destroy them, and I'd be so mad at the cats. And really should have been mad at me because I was the one that did it. But that's not the nature of humans. That's not what we do as human beings. We are notorious for blaming other things, external forces, for our misdeeds. And that's funny, but not awesome. Kind of want to put it so that it's all, when we're looking at this, we've got to remember that everything's coming at the camera like this. So we got to make sure that we keep all of our lines, even though they're together and straight, all these lines are going to effectively look like they're going, even when my fingers are all together like this, you can see that these guys look like they're way out here. It makes it look kind of like that. That's perspective. So we got to work on our perspective, make sure that our perspective is clean. I don't have to be that good with my perspective. Springs has always sort of been a not quite as real as I wanted it to be. Sort of thing. So we should, however, put a little light like this. She's got sort of a light over her desk. Lights her up, and I'll make sure I'll put the light source here so that she's just zorged. There we go. We probably don't need that one that close right here. Move them a little further down. There. Yesterday was Mother's Day. And I always think back to the days when I first started doing Springs. And my mom, I had hidden it from her because I wanted her to be sort of surprised by it. So I wrote 313 comics, and they weren't good. They were all written they were all drawn in felt tip pen, and they were all sort of these fast drawn strips, because really I wanted to see if I could establish a world, establish a culture, establish an environment, make jokes on a regular basis. And 313 jokes would have been 1 year's worth of comics as far as jokes went. And not all of them were good, as you can see, because we are at 244 of actual produced Springs comics. But in February of 2000, I put together a little party at my place, and I invited all my friends, and I invited my mom. And she was like, I don't know what I'm here for. I said, this. And I handed her the 313 strips. And she sat down and read them, and she was like, I didn't know you were doing this. And I said, well, I didn't know I was going to either, to be fair. But I also didn't want to tell people, because I knew that if I told people and then didn't do it, I'd feel stupid. And I'd feel like, hey, I'm going to draw a comic strip. And then everybody would be like, well, what happened to that comic strip you once wanted to draw? And so she was really impressed by it. She really liked the comic. She thought it was a good comic. And I remember that now. I mean, I look back on that and reflect on this. My dad's never read my comics, really, because he actually has a problem reading the font, despite the fact that, and I don't think my dad means any harm when he says this, but of course my font is my handwriting. So in a way, he's kind of like saying, I can't read your handwriting, guy. And I'm like, sorry, Dad. I can't help you on that one. And so I'm like, I didn't want to do that. Okay. We have a single panel here. Speaking of font and handwriting, we're going to go ahead and switch to my font, which I have all through here. I use Gaichan R for my original font stuff that I do here. The size is always 18, and it's Gaichan R. And I think I even have, no, I don't have that up there anymore. I used to have that up in that upper area to remind me of what's going on. We say putting the dead back in deadlines since before bedtime. Now, since before what should we set this for? Oh, wow. I've lost 3 whole people out there. So since time immemorial. Okay. Now, I'm using a word like immemorial, so that's not a word I commonly use. So I'm going to copy it real quick, bring up Google, right? And then just put that in there and see what it says. Yeah. So I didn't get an error on anything, so it seems like my spelling is correct. It is. There's nothing as embarrassing as having your wife go through your comics and you're very proud of these comics, and she says, did you notice you misspelled this word? And I'm like, no. Well, you also, the grammar's wrong here. Damn it. And like, but damn it. So anyway, okay. This is a 1-panel comic. I've got a number of panel configurations that allow me to do all kinds of different styles. This is a 3+1, which really means there's 3 panels plus 1 panel, and I've got a 1+3. Neither one of these are that. This is a 1 panel, so I'm going to turn on my 1 panel, and I'm going to draw directly. The inks are going to go directly into the 1 panel. Okay, so switch over to pen, switch down to, I'm going to switch up to this because I don't like the real, these are my brushes, and I need to keep remembering to come back to the brushes that I had made. They're my brushes, mine. my tool. I'm actually seriously thinking I should delete this or something. I don't know what I should do. I wonder if I can move this guy down. Can I move it? Oh, I can. Look at that. Look at that. I had thought of that before. Okay. I'm going to take this guy and move him to like the bottom. Stop clicking on the pen. Use the red pen. Red. There. There. Okay. So these are all my various things. They're brushes and things like that I use for painting and for ink work. So, okey pokey hokey smoky. Let's get in here. Let's get started on this thing. First thing we want to do is go in here and draw Mike. Mike, one of my dearest characters. I love Mike. She is so funny. She cracks me up every time. Mostly because she has a youthful exuberance to her that always gets her in trouble. Right? She's, and in this case, she clearly stayed up way too late working. Right? I've never done this. Right, so there we go. That's not right because her shoulder pad is right here. So I want to make sure that I have her and there's another shoulder pad on the other side, but that's behind her ponytail. So just do that. Right, and then do. And I know she's skinny. I was skinny when I was in my 20s too. So just let it go. Let it go about the fact that I'm not skinny anymore. Anyway, it's a thing. All right. What I really like doing is these are Garfield hands. It's just sort of like a she's not pointing, she's just zorched, right? Bork, out cold. One knee to rule them all. And the darkness to find them. Yes, I know. Probably too much calf there. Again, skinny. Like I was back in the day. Alrighty. Do. There we go. Oop. Like so. Where's my coffee? Oh, how did it end up behind me? Because I was over here. Put her other knee right here. Not the most graceful way to go to sleep ever. Put this right here. No, we'll put like hard shadow because this is metal. It's so metal, man. It's metal. There we go. So I got an alert from Facebook that one of my shows from last year sometime, like July or June, has had a small section of it muted because of a copyright claim. And I'm like, how did anybody get a copyright claim on my music? I use only the music from from I forgot his name, but I only use his music. I'll get there. Kevin something. We're getting closer and closer to it. I say it in the end credits of all of my shows. But it was muted, and I'm like, you muted 3 minutes of my show because of a claim on copyright, which is, I mean, I guess if I was, I'm trying to figure out, and it was only muted overseas, which makes it even funnier because I'm like, okay. So it's muted overseas. Apparently, those of you overseas, one of my shows is muted for 4 minutes for reasons that I'm still trying to figure out because I can't actually see what. They don't make it easy for you to figure out what was going on. They'll let you see the muted version so you can see whether you see what happened, but it's muted. So I don't know what was there. I don't know if maybe I accidentally got music playing somewhere from somewhere else since it's overseas. Entirely plausible that could have happened because I do spend a lot of time listening to overseas music. Certainly, I'm notorious for it. I mean, I speak Japanese, and I love listening to Korean music now. I have a deep connection with the Japanese culture, obviously. So I'll play Japanese music without even thinking about it because it's just part of my existence now. Beetle says somebody messaging me? Who's messaging me? Should always check to make sure that it's not somebody going, it's Cricket. My phone has been paid for. It's useful. So, okay. Make sure that her desk doesn't actually fall and kill her. So we'll give her some structure to this desk. Now the thing about the structure in the background here is that these guys can just be black because they're in the background, right? So I can just go bork, and that's not a problem. It's just what the background of the thing, and it's in the background. Nobody cares. And so it's behind her legs, so that's not going to be an issue either.
Incoming call from an unknown caller.
It's probably, since it's from 720. 443. I don't know. Anyway, it's probably somebody telling me, congratulations, I have won a 5-day, 6-night stay at a Marriott hotel or something like that. If only I give them my banking information. So there's that. I want to put the little light on here. A little light in there. I just like the light, It makes it. I would have, I just like having a little light above my desk. I've got one back here. If you look on my desk back there, you can't. That's all right. So, all righty. Another thing we want to do is put in the wainscoting here. I do feel like maybe I need to up the stabilization on this guy. I'm going ahead and up the stabilization on this. But also, I feel like I'm getting a lot of point, smear, and then point like that. And I'm not liking that. I wish there was a way to balance it out a little. So I can adjust that. I mean, that's still feeling kind of, I don't know, maybe this. Just feel like I get a lot more, I don't know. Maybe I need to control the pressure. Maybe it's under pressure controls. Let's look. I feel like one of the problems I'm having with my artwork here is under the ink controls, it's like it really, the pen pressure is all on or all off, and there's no like middle ground. And maybe I just need more spring on my pen. But I feel like the stroke here is kind of, I don't know, velocity. Maybe I'm pressing too hard. I don't know. Let's just get back in here and see. Cause see, I can get it. I don't know. Anyway. All right, so we'll do this. We'll just try to control. There we go. Yeah, see, I just kind of feel like I'm getting. I'll put pins in it. She's clearly pinning things up to her board. Or maybe that one doesn't have a pin, and that's part of the humor of this. Right? She's just pinning things up to this board randomly. Just things she is doing here, folks. She's just doing stuff. Who knows what she's up to? Clearly, she's, interviewing androids or drawing them. Yeah. give this just a little bit of a curl to indicate that it's kind of flipping up, like so. And we can just kind of do this. Thousands of these things. All right. Come around this corner here. And here we've got the edge of the paper. It's the edge of the paper as we know it. It's the edge of the paper as we know it. And I feel fine. Put this here. I have to make sure that the paper has an edge all the way down, because if it doesn't, when I fill this zone, it's going to get kind of weird, right? I'm going to do this all the way up and over, like that. And a window out here, you should be able to see out. All will be good. All right.
It's time to take a quick break.
All right. We're already at 1 hour. Okay, so you know what 1 hour, the 1 hour warning means? You've been sitting at this computer for 1 hour, guy. Where is my mouse? There we go. So, everybody, you all gotta stand up. Oh my goodness. That's why we have to stand up. You see, and stretch. Stretch up. One side. Other side. One side. Other side. Twist. 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 We go for a little walk. Walk around the room. And we walk back. We walk over here. And we look out at the rain, because there's rain. It's like rain everywhere. Very soon, in this section right here, will live my 3D printer. It's going to have shelves. These are the shelves I'm going to put in probably today. Shelves will go in right over here, and they'll sit right in like this, whereby the printer will sit on the shelves. And I've already set up things like we have exhausting tubes for taking the exhaust out of the printer and just blowing it outside, so that once the printer gets started, there are no internal things. I have 2 shelves designed for it, so this can hold the resin and my gloves and my masks and things like that. so that we can refill the bin at any time. And that'll be great. All right, back to work, folks. Nope, not that one. This one. Don't push the wrong button. All right. Here we are. When I was a kid, this dresser was bought for me in probably 77 or, or 78. And it's so long ago that I got this dresser that I remember having sort of weird dreams about it. Like as a kid, there were these divots, points. They were round brass mounts with a line through it. It looked like a very large flathead screw, which they weren't. They were just decorative. But I used to think that there was one there, and that one night my dad came in and there was a spider on it, and he hit the spider with his shoe and killed the spider and knocked the brass thing off. And so for a long time, I had this belief that a spider had died right here. And it was a black widow, of course, because in my world, all the evil things were black widows. So, because, as dads, as parents, we warn our kids against black widows because, frankly, a black widow bite can kill a small child. And so, I remember them telling me that, and my parents were new to Colorado. They hadn't been in Colorado for a long time. So, they came from part of the country where water moccasins were dangerous, but they didn't have any black widows. And so, that was the big thing in our family. Watch out for those black widows. They will get you. So, to me, I remember, and I mean, that's one of those listed under it's plausible anything could have happened. It's plausible. All the houses we lived in were quick. All the houses we lived in were new builds. So, since they were new, the buildings were every time in Colorado you build a new house, you get black widows because the black widows live in the ground. Now, I don't know if that's still true. I mean, I would think that after a zillion black widow houses, you'd end up with people who finally sort of figured it out, and so they call the exterminators in or whatever. But it was definitely true of our house at the time. Black widows just came in and they were annoyed by the fact that you usurped their ground, which you can't blame them too terrible much for that. But I remember both my mom and my dad going after the black widows in our house. And they were everywhere. One night, I had moved into the basement when I was a teenager. And one fateful night, I went into my room and closed the basement door. And behind the door was this huge black widow. And it was there, and my cat decided to attack it. And I was like, really? Just leave the black widow alone? Would you leave Black Widow alone, you dumb cat? Because you're going to die. You are not. He was a big cat, to be fair. I mean, he was big. But I don't think he was big enough to survive being killed by or being bitten by a black widow. So, like, you gotta not attack the black widows there, Twerp. His name was Twerp. He was a good cat. He was a good cat. He put up with a lot. I feel for George. Twerp was the same age. Twerp put up with me at the same age as George is putting up with my son. And so I feel for George. Good cat, but he's got some challenges in his life. Putting up with an 11-year-old is not easy for your local resident cat. I want to make sure that we understand she's not actually dead. She's just figuratively dead. There we go. So you want to make sure she still has, like, she has Z's above her head, so you can go, oh, she's not really dead, right? She's only mostly dead. You know what we should do, though, is do this. There we go. Writers and artists putting the dead back in deadlines since time immemorial. All right. We've got this under control now. I feel like the line work is solid. I really feel like her waist is probably a little too thin. Yes, she's thin. She's not that thin, folks. So let's go back to our one panel. And we'll clear this up a little. So that we're there. There we go, like so. I remember at some point I started to get a little bit of a punch on my stomach. And I was like talking to my dad, and I was like, oh, look, I'm getting so fat. And he was like, really? Really? And now I'm quite rotund, and I sort of feel bad about that. So there's that. You know, there's always something. Anyway, so she's got a little bit of a punch there, just a little bit like I did. And then you can all go, really at her, just like my dad did to me. Like my wife when she does that too. I'm like, really? Oh, but look, I've got a little bit of... Really? Really? My dear beloved wife puts up with me and my kid. She definitely deserves Mother's Day off. Boy. She puts up with a lot of us. And the cats. She puts up with the cats too. Really? Really? And we'll go ahead and do this. Because really, I think her arm's coming down here a little bit like that. All right. There we go. Now looking at it from any distance here, she looks like she's just zonked. Writers and artists putting dead back in deadlines since time immemorial. This is one that could end up being a t-shirt. And I may pivot the art on this and make a t-shirt out of it, because I think some Springs t-shirts need to exist in this world. So, okay, we're going to take this one panel, and this is what we do here. We know we're going to go into the colors, so we're going to duplicate the layer, and I put the copy underneath it. That copy is going to be the fill, and this is how we do our flats, right? We know what her colors are. She's purple up here and purple down there, right? And then she's pink right in the middle, and her legs are pink. So her arms, and also her head. She has a yellow ponytail, which I had a ponytail for a while, but then it would turn into a rat tail, and then the rat tail was cut in my before I turned 30. So there's that. Her desk, I feel like, should always be sort of blue. So her desk is blue. I would have a blue desk. I mean, the only reason I have a light green desk is because I actually kind of love the fact that my desk is from the 50s. I think that's really fruity. So, there's that. I'm going to do the desk structs and structures. This is also pink because it's her other leg. Okay. The other thing is her little stool here. We're going to want that to be gray. Bork, 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 right? And I think the pad on the stool probably would be a blue as well. So we're going to go boom, boom, like that, because we kind of like that to match. The lamp is going to be gray. Bork, bork. Really, bork there. Except for the what's its, which I'll make green, because that way it'll stand out. Right, I'm going to kind of make it look like something we see. We're going to do now the background of her apartment, which is probably like an orange, except for not the wainscoting, because really, the wainscoting is going to have to be like this darker orange here. Make that just like that under there. And I don't know what the heck's going on here. There, the wainscoting is a darker orange. And then I'm going to, and she's going to be in the purple land. I mean, really, she's purple. But that's too dramatic. I really feel like that's way off the charts dramatic. So let's go for a maybe pink. Take a look there. Nah, that's not going to work either. So we'll go for a very light yellow, because I feel like it needs to be lighter than the world around it. Not a problem. Okay. This is my dresser. My dresser was brown. I love this dresser. Just saying. Let's do this. And then we'll go for a light brown on top and a darker brown for the trim. Like so. Papers just stay white because papers are white. she's got some kind of horrible green floor because you don't get to pick what your apartment looks like when you're poor. So there's that. Do this and this and that. And tap, and then tap there. And then there's a little dot right there. It's really hard to hit. Oh God, I'm turning everything green. Right? Because everything's now turned like a funky color because I can't hit that one spot. Okay, there. Make sure while we're here to tap that. And then one thing we're going to want to do is go in here and tap that. Right? It's a light blue because of the light blue behind here. It'll be fine. Now what we'll do is one more thing we need to do, which is select this window, right? And then we're going to go underneath this because I really don't want to screw around with this forever. And we're going to be underneath this layer here. We're going to say Control-Shift-I to invert my selection. I'm going to take this light blue, which I actually kind of like. It looks neat. And I'm just going to tap everywhere. Right? That has covered everything in this comic that's white. That's all these papers here, these papers here, and then we deselect it. Okay? And what that has given us now is quite literally everything in here now is that is not directly referenced is white. So we're going to do that, Control-Shift-I, and then delete it. And that'll still give us the rest of the comic, right? Delete. All right, there we go. So this is the back of it with a hole, and that allows us to put in the background. So we're going to do that. We're going to open. I'm going to go to Spring's main directory, work. Go to the backgrounds directory, where the backgrounds are for this. And we're going to bring up the plane 2, which is this guy. I'll copy. And we bring it in here underneath this guy right now, under here. A new layer in, and we say paste. Okay. This allows us to place something outside the window. And we try to find something picturesque. Looks nice, right? And we just snag just that section right there. Control-Shift-I, delete, deselect. Now all of this is now assembled really quickly to make a very nice, just picturesque thing. You know how this all goes. We add a new layer. This one is our multiply layer at 33, like so. And we bring up our pin. We're going to actually make it a little bit larger. We're going to do things like just come along here, like so. And bring the darkness in, right? Do. And the same thing down here, except we're going to actually kind of make it go along the wainscoting. It's going to come out like this. Oh no, look at me going off the picture. Yeah, so come in like this and do just a little bit there. We'll kind of do this number right through here to kind of just give some depth. And what we're doing is we're just giving shadow and depth to what's going on over here, right? Do the same thing over here. Come up and around. I'm so flaunting the fact that I'm just going off of the line here. Okay, so we're gonna come up like this, and like so. There we go. We'll come out like that. Back around. All right. Like so. Excellent, like so. There we go. So kind of got this like nice shading thing going on over here, nice shading thing kind of going on over here. We're going to put in some shading behind the dresser or at the dresser, so the same kind of thing going on here. And I kind of go like this a little bit. And I'm going to go over just a little bit down here so that you can see that there's depth to this as well. Okay, I'm going to bring this back up and like so. Come back down. Now I need to also think about this. There's light coming from here, so we want to make sure this kind of shows that it understands there's light coming from there. All right, so we're going to draw a line sort of like that. Just like this. That's just showing some shading kind of going on over here, kind of like this. And I'll show you shades in the middle like this, and kind of. I get the idea, right? So we're just gonna roughly shade in here, and the idea is a bunch of papers, so like it's gonna be shady anyway. Here, so. Okay, now this light's on, so the shading on her is going to be like this. Right. This. I'm thinking kind of about the way that I do comics, and I think it's misleading, sadly, how quickly I can come up with a thing for Springs, because Springs is, and I think a lot of people keep doing the, hey, you're good at this, so why don't you do a comic for me? And I don't think I can do comics under commission. I've been kind of thinking about this a lot, and I'm doing them for Geekway Homes, but it's really hard if I'm doing comics for other people. I can do these just fine for me, but I really have a problem when it's not me, and I don't know what the problem. I don't know why that is, but it is. Now, if we are ever doing things where we have an absolute light source like we have here, we want to make sure some part of this shows the original color, even if that's the underside, because you want to show that you meant to do this. This is the intentional color. This is our real color. We mean to do this. Because if we just color the whole thing in like this, and then just color all of this, then it becomes misleading into thinking that it looks like we meant for it to be dark pink, and there's no shading. So we've got to be able to put something in here, some aspect of this, that shows that we meant to do this. So you do either the front line like so on both knees, or as in the case of the skirt, we're doing the back of it like this and the underside. So it's like a reflected light off of the back of it here. Doing the same on her back, right? Because her back theoretically is directly in line with this light. So all of it should be in the shade. But it can't be, because if so, it looks like we didn't shade it at all. If you don't give some indication here that this was your intention, then it looks like you didn't shade it at all. You just were lazy and decided not to do any of the work. So we've got to do something. So that's the something we have chosen to do. So there we go. Now, what is a problem is this wainscoting underneath here. So we're going to, first things first, we're actually going to take the panel lines here, and we're going to go through here. I got to trim a couple of this out because these will bother me. Just like that. Bothers me. Okay, in the color side, we're going to come back in here, and we're going to select the green. That's because we're on the eraser. And select the green. And do that. And it's okay that there's no black line here. That's not an issue. It just looks like it's doing its job there. There, we actually can go across like so here too. Not a big deal, but you know. So anyway, we will come along like this. And we will do that. There we go. And we'll come up like so, and then we'll come across like that. We'll go down like so. And we will just bring this back up just a hair like that. Just enough to make it look like that's something else, a different level. Right? We'll bring this back. Matches the corners of her body, the contour. And we'll make sure that there's no shadow in the highlight. All right. When we go all the way back out again, you can kind of see where we're headed on this. The last thing we want to do, of course, is trim down everything. So we'll go in here and we'll go like this. Same thing as before, Control-Shift-I and then delete. That clears everything that's on the outside. Control-Shift-I is the flip, that flips your selection, doodly-wop. Selection doodly-wop. That's a technical term, doodly-wop. Okay. You know how this goes. One more layer. This is our last layer. We do overlay on this one, and 66%. Although I may decide later that that's not what I want. We'll see. We'll test it, right? We'll test it by drawing apparently the wrong thing. We'll test it by doing this, right? So, right, see, that's what we want. That's the right answer. Undo. The light is directly on her right here. How did she sleep through this? You must be so exhausted to sleep through having a light shining directly on your face and on your ponytail. Now let's push this to 100 to make sure. Usually I cut that down, but then there's this, which is the light is shining straight on her. She has gone to Zonkland. Right? Okay, there we go. And then we'll just put a little bit of shine right here. Right, and then we'll, as usual, we'll do that. We'll get a little bit better in there. Let's get better in here, huh? We can do better. And then we can actually kind of do this kind of thing. And this will indicate light coming out of here. There we go. Now, we want to put a little bit of light shining right here. And right along there. Indicate that this light's on. It is. So it's all good. I don't see anything else that needs to really be highlighted on her at this point in time. She's pretty solidly highlit. Helit? I don't know. And looking around, I don't see anything else that really needs a highlight. It's specifically this. Now, the only thing is I will put this in because there's always a shine on metal. So we'll put like a little bit of that in. So it's like this. That way, at least the metal looks like it's shining. Right? But she's zonked. We didn't put shading on there, so let's go ahead and do that. This should be shaded like so, otherwise it doesn't feel like it's a real thing. And then we should also put some shading where her butt is. Here we go. Like that. Alrighty. The other thing I wanted to look into was cleaning up some shading parts over here. So we're going to go back through here. We're going to clean this up. Kind of going over the edge. And I want to kind of straighten that out. All right, come back in with the black. And we're going to do this. We're going to come out on this edge just a little bit and make sure everything's covered through there. There we go. There we go. Now, I like this piece. It's turning out really nice. Hit the magical S button to save it. Right? We don't need to save the plane because we'll come back and use it again, but we don't want to save it by accident because it'll ruin it. Okay. Okay, now we look over everything, make sure everything is good. I really don't like, I want to really get in here with this brush and like that. Right? So now you can kind of see I made the shadow look like this light is illuminating it, right? So if that's the case, I think I want to put some shadow right here. The light will be hitting there and projecting onto the wall. So there we go. Now it looks like she's got a light on. The light is projecting across the room. There's papers everywhere. She's fallen asleep in the middle of trying to work on something. And it's the dead and deadlines. I like it. The joke hits. It's got a little bit of structure to it. It's funny. It's certainly something we all can identify with. So it's a good, solid strike. So let's go there and we'll call it good. Now we'll trim up the picture. We turn off the things we don't need. So we're going to turn off the blue line. And we keep everything on here, but we need to turn off this panel background. That's not going to help us any. And we turn off the support line. That's not going to help us any. When we turn off the backdrop texture, it makes this a super dramatic orange that I like. But I'm going to turn the background texture on once more for just a second, because one of the things we need to do is trim it. I'm going to change the canvas size. And that means bringing this down to here. Okay. And once we do, then we can pull off the background texture. I actually kind of feel like yellow might work a little bit better on this one because it kind of matches the background, you know? So I'm going to go for yellow. Besides, it was Mother's Day yesterday, and my mom's favorite color was yellow. So look at our image resolution and make sure everything's good. Then I'm going to save it again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I didn't say anything about the C word, did I? So why did my Alexa just trigger? That's something to make you think, huh? Urraite. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost done with this particular guy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do Control-Shift-E, and that flattens everything that's not active anymore, right? That flattens us into one spot, right? So now I can take you and delete you, and I can take you and delete you, and just delete all of these things until we are down to just this guy, right? We're going to transform. No. Yeah, we're going to change image resolution. The ultimate goal here is 600. It's going to be the height of new 20. 1200. 627. So it's 1200 wide by 627. And we got to actually do something very strange with it because that's somehow that freaks out the business side. I'm not sure. Okay. And that is our Springs comic for today. We can save as. We don't save at this point. We want to save as. and we'll come in here and we'll save it as a PNG. And the reason we save it as a PNG is that makes this top part here transparent. So we'll save it as a PNG. I actually think I have to do one tap onto it and go transform, no, change canvas size. And we have to make it 626. I'm not sure, I don't remember how it works. Anyway, we have to make sure we've made one exact little change, otherwise it won't save properly. Okay, so we save it as a PNG. Put it down. Save it as a PNG. It's like, why are we having a problem here? You have to overwrite the existing PNG. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on ahead. We're going to try something new. We're going to try creating a social post out of my website. Okay. And this is going to go to all of my spots. We're going to bring up the image on this. Add images. The reason we're doing this, by the way, is because we want to absolutely make sure that we have used the correct, or we're going to have to load these in anyway. So we need to load them into the computer, or we need to, not the computer, not you. We need to load them into the website. So we're going to take this guy and load him anyway. Insert. There we go. Then we still have to do the thing, which is go to my Instagram setup, because there is a hashtag list that I've got to use. This is my hashtag list for all of my stupid shows. And there's a lot of them. So we're going to do that real quick. We're going to load this in. Put this right up here. Hello, everyone. It's today's Springs comic. Okay. We'll preview it, and we don't need to customize anything we'll customize the post for Facebook. Here. Or we won't. All right, here we go. Run slow. Oof, this is brutal. All right. I'm putting in only 2 hashtags for Facebook because it really doesn't matter. But when you go to Instagram, you really have to customize the post for Instagram. So we're going to edit this. And then we've got my hashes for Springs, and there's 30 of them. There we go. Twitter doesn't need anything specific. It doesn't really matter. Hashes won't help you any on Twitter, so I don't bother worrying about it too terrible much. And then we just hit publish and pray for the best, right? And see whether that goes out there onto the universe. And if it does, you'll see it on my Instagram, you'll see it on my Twitter, And you will see it on GS Davis. And I will check it by viewing the post on GS Davis. Looks good. Looks solid. Now, I will share it to my news feed. I've been on a mic kick the last couple of times. She has really suffered brutally at the hands of me, because such is the nature. Okay, the Springs comic is out and live. It's in the wild. All looks good. So I'm going to bring back to here, and we did a good job. We did a good job, you and I. We did fine today. So if you were drawing the entire time I was drawing, congratulations, good job. And I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we actually get to work on Bellatrix Rising for a little while. We are clear on Airship 27 for a while. That one went live, so we're good. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and break early, go to lunch. You should too. Take a break. And I'll see you all tomorrow. And remember to keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye. Computer, good night.